Welcome to another episode of the New Look Under the Influence podcast. I'm delighted to say we're joined by Sadaf today from Turning Point, who's a diverse community
recovery worker.
Thank
you for inviting me today.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. Sadaf, you're familiar with Dilesh?
He does look familiar, yeah. No, I do work closely with Dilesh.
So, yeah, that's really good. Sadaf, first of all, tell me what your role, as a diverse communities worker involves.
Right, okay, so my role is something that's come about because obviously the community we work with, is very diverse in itself in Leicester. So if we now look at substance misuse, we do have, a large number of people from diverse communities who access the services. But what we're trying to do at Turning Point is actually sort of tap into and reflect our clients through our recovery workers as well. There should be a good proportion of recovery workers, for example, from Polish or South Asian backgrounds. And it's something we're working on, and Dilesh is working on that at the moment alongside the management. So I think my role is really important because my role, I hope, is a vehicle for clients from Punjabi communities or, other South Asian communities to access and feel comfortable and not feel worried about there being a language barrier. But in fact, it's actually something that will feel more home to home with no judgment. And, because obviously, from our communities, is that sharm और इज्जत का, बात होता है. So इसलिए I'll just drop into so इसलिए हमारे लिए बहुत important है क्योंकि असाना बंदे वो थोड़ा सा उनको शर्म लगता है जब दारू पीते हैं या वो थोड़ा सा चर्स पीते हैं, ड्रग्स पीते हैं, हेरोइन वगैरह, पॉपी सीड्स बहुत हमारे कम्युनिटी का प्रॉब्लम होता है ना. इसलिए उनके लिए मैं ज़रूर कहती हैं, जब असेसमेंट करते हैं ना हम बात करते हैं वो थोड़ा सा शर्म आता है, मगर मैं उनको कहती हूँ आप ऐसा नहीं सोचना क्योंकि हम इंसान हैं और जब हम इंसान मदद करते हैं. ये मैं ऐसे बात करती हूँ उनके साथ, जो आप पीते हो, जो आप ड्रग्स पीते हो या दारू पीते हो, ये मेरा काम नहीं आपको जज करना, हम आपको मदद करना है ज़रूर से. इसलिए बहुत ज़रूर होता है हमारे कल्चर को अंडरस्टैंड होते हैं, जो क्योंकि मैं पोलिश लोग के कल्चर नहीं अंडरस्टैंड करती, मगर मैं पाकिस्तानी या इंडियन या बांग्लादेशी, उनका भी थोड़ा सा गुजराती भी लोग, हमारे थोड़ा सा कल्चर सिमिलर है, डिफरेंट भी है मगर सिमिलर है.
बिल्कुल.
हाँ, से इसीलिए ज़रूर होता है हम पंजाबी भी थोड़ा सा बोलते हैं, हम हिंदी भी बोलते हैं, मगर मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट, सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंस है उनको मदद मिल जाए, उनको कॉन्फिडेंस मिल जाए.
And I think the key to this is that I don't speak Punjabi or Hindi. So now I need a translator. So I now need a translator to translate what you've just said.
Yeah.
And this is one of the key roles with your job.
Yeah.
So with one of the key roles of your job is you being a Punjabi and Hindi speaking specialist, you can actually speak to people in their mother tongue. You can speak to them without needing a translator, without needing an interpreter in between, without having a phone call. This now becomes direct.
Exactly.
So you can actually speak, and sometimes people can go through services, and if you're Hindi and Punjabi speaking, or Polish speaking, or Gujarati speaking, you don't really speak to a person, you speak to a phone. And that's a translation. And
that's not ideal. You're coming forward with your substance misuse issues. You've taken the courage to come and step forward. You're worried about the community. There is this, like I said, there's shame and respect, honour-based communities. We're from honour-based communities, so that's really important. We have to understand that as professionals and why public health, we, sort of integrate that into the understanding of providing culturally tailored services, which I know Dilesh is really passionate about, getting that into mainstream substance misuse, and that sort of, is a great way, for me to kind of jump onto that as well, because Dilesh is very passionate about getting into the core of the issues, which are removing language barriers, taking the third person away, and being able to make it a non-judgmental space for our clients, because that's the first thing they say, will people find out I'm coming here? I said, look, nobody's going to know you're here. Whatever we talk about stays within this.
And that's really important, and that's crucial, isn't it, to people from our communities?
Yes.
Is that anonymity and the confidentiality. And we have to, from the Sikh Recovery Network, I get that a lot when people are phoning. I've even had mothers and wives saying, you won't say anything to anyone. I said, look, all I've got is a phone number. I don't even know who you are, where you're from.
Yeah.
So it's massive, that confidentiality, isn't it, to our people?
Absolutely.
But, Sadaf, what I wanted to ask you, I was going to ask you before Dilesh mentioned it as well, was that when you speak in Punjabi or Hindi or Gujarati to them, does that help them open up to you more or make them feel more comfortable?
Well, actually, you literally see a change in their body language.
Yeah.
It becomes open. It's no longer hunched, and you get more eye contact, and people actually sort of readjusting them. So you see it in very different way, non-verbal ways as well.
Yeah.
So they suddenly start feeling more relaxed. You might see them engaging. Well, you definitely see them engaging more, smiling more, having more positive kind of engagement. But yeah, and I think what's really important is the fact that when I talk about, because I know from a cultural perspective, we talk about not judging, nobody else is going to know. Yeah. This is the only people might get involved are your GP perhaps, or other professionals that are involved in your care if you're prescribed a medication to help along your treatment. But their language changes, their tone changes as well, so it's good to see.
And do they open up more to you then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because I think as a professional, regardless of the language, let's parking that to a side, I need to see through the eyes of my client. I need to see through the eyes of my client, put myself in their shoes. Everyone is one step away from homelessness or a few steps away from substance use. We don't know what happens in life, so we always have to put ourselves in that person's shoe and come in there with an open mind.
And I think this is where, bringing you in with the Sikh Recovery Network, where the idea that we had when we first started working together is if you get somebody that refers themselves to that Leicester base, you was referring them direct to Turning Point to get the support from myself. And a lot of the times we'd have Punjabi-speaking clients come in and they'd land on my case, and as I've just made it aware that I don't speak Punjabi.
Yeah.
However, I created this odd half Gujarati, half Punjabi, half English language that sometimes worked.
Yeah.
But there was a connection with the service users where they had somebody who had who looked at the same to them, and that connection worked. But what I've noticed the difference with Sadaf coming in her role is that they walk in and they sit down and they hear the same language, and that complex just changes.
Yeah.
And I guess you probably see that a lot.
100%. And I think that is so true. Being able to speak in your own language and express how you feel is just so important. And this is no criticism of Turning Point, but if a Punjabi speaking or a Hindi speaking, Gujarati, even Polish you going in there and you really want to talk about it, and then the support worker doesn't understand you, you're not going to get much out of that person. And I think when they engage with people like Sadaf, you're going to find that they'll reveal much more.
I totally agree with what you're saying in that perspective. I think as a person from South Asian community as well, I've seen the struggles my grandparents had not speaking English. I saw, my mum was born here and she spoke English, but I saw relatives who struggled with that. And coming from that, seeing that, I'm sure we all got experiences of that, in different capacities, all of us, intergenerational issues with languages and integrating into substance abuse. And the fact that we're in these key positions here, Dilesh is leading this team, and how it's going to expand. We have to look at how we can make it more culturally conducive to our service users.
Yeah.
And how do you think we can do that? Both of you.
Well, Dilesh, I'll hand it over to you for now.
So we've got to be realistic. And Jez, we've been working together for about 4 to 5 years.
Probably longer, I think.
Probably a little longer. I think when we look at figures 5 years ago, we had this chat a little while ago looking at figures, and I'm not just talking about Punjabi or Gujarati, I'm talking about all diverse communities. So when I first took the role on, all them years ago, we only had 7% of people in the whole of the treatment from diverse backgrounds. Only 7%.
And that's in
Leicester City.
Wow. That's crazy,
being so diverse. And there's been a lot of work that we've done, talks at the Gurdwara, meetings, we've done the 12-step, we've done the recovery program, we've worked with Sikh Spinning Hill Recovery, we've worked with IMG, we've worked with the Belgrave Police. We've been doing a lot of outreach in communities over the last 5 years, and going to events and stalls and talking and putting presence to the Daman community. We've done so much, and in the last 5 years we've seen a 10% increase in all diverse backgrounds. And I've sort of lost the question. I've got off on a tangent. However, this is for me is about we as community, people from the community need to be in the community. I have a big believe in that. If you're working with communities, you need to be working with the community, in the community, for the community.
No,
I don't believe that can happen any other way around. You can't do it work in the community, like work in the community, for the community, with the community. It just doesn't work in that direction, like, because there are great community leaders. There are people that are doing great work already, like yourself.
Yeah.
We have to tap into your resources and your needs and your skills, start working with you and start offering a specialised service for the community, because there is a need. Like, you drive around the whole of Leicester, the whole of UK, and there's people of all different ethnicities, backgrounds, colours, races, cultures, languages. We're so diverse now. And there's a huge need for people to engage in treatment and understand treatment. I'm guessing when you speak to people from Leicester, they don't even know what Turning Point is.
And this is, you know, and we do get a lot of phone calls from Leicester or when we visit the Gurdwara, and when I say to them, you know, have you been to Turning Point? And they're like, what's Turning Point?
Yeah.
And then when you try and explain that alcohol and drugs are, you know, substance misuse, that they'll give you help, then it's like, oh, right. And then the next question is, some of them, their first language isn't English. And then there's another barrier.
Yeah.
But, you know, now hopefully that isn't a barrier anymore with you working there.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really excited about, you know, when I got the role, because I know how important it is, and I know that, you know, Dilesh's vision for where he wants it to go is, you know, it's something really sort of inspiring, to be honest, as well. But, I mean, if there's any, you know, listeners from Punjabi communities listening now, you know, that would be fantastic, you know, whether it's, you know, Gurdwara, whether it's a community centre or any other organisations, you know, feel free to get in contact with Turning Point, with Dilesh, myself, or obviously Jazz as well from the Sikh Recovery Network. Let's work together at sort of, you know, moving forward together, understanding each other. You know, even myself, I want to learn more about the Sikh faith. I want to learn more about it. You know, we can never not learn enough of each other, from each other. And, you know, at work, we're always learning about each other, aren't we? So, you know, that's something I think is about working together collaboratively, really.
And most of the time we learn together, and we learn most of from our service users.
Yeah.
So we learn from our service users. We learn about the cultural, the background issues, the stigma, the shame, and that's a key aspect that we see within diverse communities. The stigma and the cultural shame, and people don't engage in treatment because of cultural shame. And this is about breaking down them barriers, talking what you do, Jazz. Going into the Gurdwara and talking about your journey. And without these talks and without going into the community, we can't progress. And we have to just keep doing more. And I do have a great vision to be based in every single community possible. And I do want that. And we've got Sadaf, who's a Punjabi Hindi-speaking lead. We're currently we're looking to employ a Polish-speaking lead. And we've got multiple different workers that specialise in Gujarati speakers. I speak Gujarati myself, so I'm happy to speak in that language. And we're also looking at family and carer support for diverse communities, because that's the key we talk about a lot. Like, we talk about everyone, I think you told me this time, everyone addict, it affects 7 other people in their life.
But in our Punjabi, in our Asian communities, it's a lot more, isn't it?
Absolutely. The extended family, the dynamics of our families are much more larger, aren't they? Yeah.
And I think, coming back to what you said, and this is why I think, I mean, one, you know, through yourself, getting to know the Spinney Hill project, right? And they came to the Gurdwara, sat in on a couple of our meetings, and they just said how powerful they were, and you know, the honesty they felt, and the energy in those rooms was amazing, and them coming to us and us working with them, it just shows that, you know, getting to know each other, the importance of working together, and how similar our cultures are.
They really are, and I think it's about celebrating differences and similarities. It's about, you know, acknowledging each other's differences and similarities, you know, and that's the important thing, you know, and finding those shared values and building upon those as well. You know, I'd love to attend the Gurdwara events. I'd love to attend. I'm open to attending any diverse, you know, community events as well, because we're human beings. We learn. We're constantly learning. You know, we never stop learning. I think this life's a learning journey. you know. So yeah, I think that's really important, and I think offering, what I really liked as well is that we're looking at what the Punjabi community want. What does the Punjabi speaking community want, the Sikh community want, in terms of how they would like the service to look like? It's not about what me and Dilesh want it to look like. It's about, well, how would you like it in a drop-in? Would you like it in a different? Well, how would you like it to be? Would you know? And that's how we want to work. It's about giving ownership to the community, and we facilitate it.
No, absolutely. And I think that's really important, and that's where it's down to the community as well, the community to get involved and tell you, well, yeah, we do want to drop in.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that could work really well in the Gurdwara, drop-in sessions. And those who aren't comfortable coming into the city centre and that go to the Gurdwara regular or to the mandir or to the mosques, they can have that opportunity there to talk to you.
Absolutely. And if they're worried about even going there, we could find another place.
A venue, a
community centre. There's so many options.
There's so many, and like, the world is our oyster. I mean, I think with the offer that Turning Point have, working alongside Sikh Recovery Network, Spinney Hill Recovery, working with all of these organisations, we've got so many options and offers to grow, and we've seen growth in the last 5-6 years. And for me, I want to see this growing and growing and growing. I don't want to look backwards. I want to be offering more, like we said, family and carers. That wasn't a discussion. We spoke about rehab today. That wasn't discussion. There's so much more for communities to work with and develop and grow with.
I'm glad you mentioned that again, because I probably would have forgot, because there's so much to talk about and you get lost in conversation. Is the families and carers.
Yes.
You know, and they're the forgotten one sometimes.
Absolutely.
I remember doing an event with NARCOA, the National Association of Children of Alcoholics, and it was in Birmingham, in Smethwick, you know, probably one of the largest gurdwaras in the country, and but the event was to support children of alcoholic, but the conversation kept coming back to the addict, but we sometimes forget how the impact it has on the families.
Absolutely.
And the devastation it is, and some of them don't get the treatment, they don't get the help they need, and they're suffering in silence. You know, and you know, not just the children, especially, who've got to go to school every day, and they're keeping their family. It's almost a family secret.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like looking at it more from a systemic approach, especially in our, you know, South Asian communities. It's not just that small unit. The small unit is a large unit, which is a small unit for South Asian Gujarati families, Punjabi families, you know, Sikh families, Muslim families, whatever. It's that built, and it's having that understanding. How will we help? You know, mother-in-law might be living in the home, brother-in-law, sister-in-laws, we don't know, and nephews, nieces may or may not be that way. So these people are seeing this, as you said, you say 7 people affected by one addict, whichever that may be. So it's changing our perspective, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. And this is why these, you know, podcasts are important, so that, you know, people, and I think this is the best way to get the message across for those people who don't come to the Gurdwara, who don't watch the Sikh channel, and it's another way. And I think it's important we work together with people like yourselves.
So I'll just say something slightly. I say to people who might be listening as well, जो आपको कोई मदद चाहिए, आप ज़रूर टर्निंग पॉइंट से कांटेक्ट करना है, और जास के साथ भी सिख रिकवरी नेटवर्क उनको भी कांटेक्ट करना है, क्योंकि ये आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भी है, इसलिए मेरा काम ये मिला है आपको मदद करने का। आपको ये भी है, कोई किसी आपको जो बात बताएंगे वो इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में रहेगा। ये आपका सफ़र है, ये आपका ज़िंदगी है, और हमारा काम है आपको मदद करने का। शर्म का बात नहीं, इज़्ज़त का बात नहीं, ये आपके लिए, खुद आपके लिए है, इंसान है।
सदफ, मैं कुछ कहना चाहता, मैं भी पंजाबी च कहूँगा कि साडे लोकां दे विच ना एक चीज़ ने सानू बहुत परेशान किया, लोकी की कहणगे
जी, बंदे के कहेंगे, लोग की
कहणगे, साडे मुंडे कुड़ियां बजुर्ग मरी जांदे आ, पर ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹੀ ਸੋਚੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਕਿ ਲੋਕੀ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਗੇ। ਐਂਡ ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਇਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲਿਸਨਰਸ ਵਿਊਅਰਸ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ, ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈਸਟਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਯੂ ਨੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟਰਨਿੰਗ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ, ਤੇ ਟਰਨਿੰਗ ਪੁਆਇੰਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਜਵਾਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਦਫ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਅਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੀ ਕੌਨਫੀਡੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਆ, ਗੁਪਤ ਆ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਨੂੰ ਇਹੀ ਡਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਵੇ। ਸੋ ਐਂਡ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਰਿਕਵਰੀ ਨੈਟਵਰਕ, ਜੋ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਪਿਨੀ ਹੈਲਥ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਆ, ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀ confidential
ਜੀ।
ਤੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਗੁਪਤ ਆ
ਹਾਂ।
and I think ਬਹੁਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਡਰ ਪੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਿਕਲ ਜਾਵੇ
ये ऐसा बात है बिल्कुल किसी को पता लगे गुरुद्वारे में किसी को सुनेंगे वो देखेंगे मैं टर्निंग पॉइंट में चलूँ मगर ऐसा सोचना है जो ये आपका ज़िंदगी है आपका बात उस कमरे में रहेगा उस वर्कर के साथ रहेगा
So Sadaf, it be a bamari, it's a disease, isn't it?
Yeah.
So our people don't understand that. This is it's one of those. It's not like where you're going to get sympathy, is it? It's not an illness or a disease where you're going to get. A lot of people will turn around and think, well, he's done it to himself.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the stigmas that are attached to addiction, whether it's substance misuse or alcohol, poppy seeds.
Exactly. And also it can be socially accepted as well, the poppy seed. I mean, Dilesh, we had a conversation about this not long ago. He was talking about how poppy seed consumption is socially acceptable and then going in there trying to talk about how it's not good for you. It's a difficult challenge, isn't it, really?
Huge
and poppy seeds in Leicester is massive now, isn't it? Like you said, it's just so socially accepted.
It is. Huge. Very easy accessible as well.
Yeah.
Too easy, I think.
So what's Turning Point doing to help people
with poppy seeds?
Yeah.
So I started working with, again, when I was working with you, we started getting a lot of referrals for poppy seed use. So when we started working I've done a lot of case studies and intense work with service users for poppy seeds. 3-4 years ago, poppy seeds, you'd buy a bag for £5. And now, all of a sudden, that whole process has changed. So now there's local shops around Leicester selling poppy seeds in containers for £20-30. And so what this has seen is it's made it all easy. So you don't have to grind it, you don't have to do anything yourself. So people are just buying them and it's easy access. However, we're seeing a lot more people come in because it's becoming more and more addictive and more expensive. So people's use is going from £20 a week to 60, 70, 80, 90, £100 a week, and people are now coming into treatment for support. But what the work I've done and the case studies that I've done, we've looked into what poppy seed does. It gives you a bit of energy, it gives you the energy. And
it's a stimulant, isn't it?
It's a stimulant in a way, but it's an opiate. It's opiate.
Yeah.
We prescribe the same as we would for poppy seeds, as the same as we would for somebody using heroin. And people are not realising that. And so when we got people coming in, we're looking at either prescribing buprenorphine is the best option because buprenorphine is an opiate receptor. So it stops, when you take poppy seeds on top of buprenorphine, it flies it out of your system. And so doing that, that's the best option for me. Like methadone, what it does is you can still use poppy seeds on top or Ficeptone. However, it does the opposite. So it does the adverse effect. So people using methadone or Ficeptone, they then use more and more poppy seeds and left with a double addiction. So ideally, for anybody coming into treatment for poppy seeds, it's looking at getting prescribed buprenorphine, staying on it for a short period, and make it again to the right dose so they don't need it, they don't have withdrawals, and then look at doing a steady reduction in treatment and reducing until you get to zero and go back and working with people like yourself for the aftercare. And so we're doing a lot. We're getting out there, going to the Gurdwara, talking about it. We're doing presentations with local police. But when you're going to the shops shouldn't be selling this. This is illegal for the shops to be doing. And there's a lot of the shops that I know that are doing them. And it's illegal for you to have it. People are not aware of this. If you're caught with this and it's tested, it's like being caught with Class A. It's
that awareness again, isn't it?
And in a way, people are having it in their house. If they're children to get hold of it, this is a little bit of powder. It's a little bit. If your 5-year-old child or your 10-year-old child gets hold of it and tries it and has it, it's a risk of their life. You're putting your family at risk, and it just looks like a bit of powder, and it's socially acceptable, like we just said, in so many houses.
Sadaf, why do you think that is? You've got alcohol in the Punjabi Sikh community, right? You've got poppy seeds. You've got in all our communities. These substances, alcohol, these so socially accepted.
Yeah, I think all communities have different social harms that they're tackling. I mean, within the communities, just mentioned the Punjabi speaking or the wider South Asian community, I think there's a lack of understanding of the full impact it can have on the mind, on the body, and the whole being essentially. So I think, creating more awareness, like you said, poppy seeds are socially accepted. Drinking to a point, not some Sikhs are very, no, I will not drink, and that's fantastic. But some will say, well, I do, and that's their own journey. It's not for us to judge anyone in that. But what I find when I speak to my clients, they're saying I started poppy seeds because I worked in a factory where I was encouraged to take it because everybody was drinking, spoonfuls of poppy seeds in water for more productivity. And then they became hooked on it, and then they couldn't get off it. So they didn't see actually how it was actually a maladaptive coping strategy. It wasn't a positive way of getting through the day and using vitamin C or drinking a smoothie as such. So I think the addictions can come in hidden ways as well.
And I think it's one of these questions I want to throw to Jazz, and I'm going to have a back-end question to yourself, Sadaf, is what do you think me and Sadaf, need to be doing, or Turning Point as well, need to be doing or should be doing to engage more community engagement?
I just think you need to be doing more of this. Maybe one community worker who speaks different, languages isn't enough. Maybe you need two Sadafs. Maybe you need two of you, and then that way you can get out in the community more. You won't have this pressure of being in the office. And I think, Turning Point is a massive organisation, right? And in a place like Leicester where it's so diverse, you want the honest truth. I don't think one of you is enough.
We agree.
And hopefully we've got Jazz. We'll have Jazz as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got you're fortunate because you've got me. You've got people like the Spinny Hopper. I think they do some amazing work. And I think together, if there was more of you, we could make a bigger difference.
And that's it. It's about the growth, like the growth since we've worked together that we've seen. We spoke about this 7 to 17, 10% growth. Then it's about doing more of this. I just want to keep doing more and more and seeing more growth throughout time. And
we've seen the changes it's made, and we've seen success stories in our community, and I'm sure you've seen success in other communities. And sometimes we can be negative and talk about the lack of success, but there is those individuals who are doing well and they're passing the message and carrying the message on to other addicts. And
that's the key thing for me, is that we are as a service in Leicester, I think we're doing really well. I think as a service we're doing really well. Like when we're walking in the office and we talk about diverse cultures, we've got so many diverse cultures within our staff team.
Absolutely,
first of all. Second of all, when we go through the reception, there's so many different diverse cultures walking in nowadays where it didn't used to be like this before. So we're seeing a huge change within Leicester, within our service that we're working with, and we want to go broader and wider. And have more.
I agree with you, Dilesh. I do. I think Leicester, Turning Point Leicester are doing a great job, but I think people will say the Sikh Recovery Network is doing a great job, but we know we can do more.
Of course, there's always more.
Yeah, and we can do it. But I think with Turning Point, the organisation, with the money available to you, the resources you have, for the diverse communities, one of Sadaf isn't enough in Leicester. Let's be honest. One of Dilesh isn't enough here. So that's where I think there could be better changes.
Perhaps there'll be some campaigns in the future, online campaigns.
And this is a great, there's one of Sadaf, there's one of Jazz, there's one of Dilesh, there's one of Spinny Hill Recovery, there's one of Arafat, there's one of Afsal, there's a lot of these ones. I think this is one of the things that's not realised. There's a lot of these little ones across the service.
And I think what you've got to appreciate as well, Arafat and Afzal and myself and others in the community, we're doing it for different reasons.
Oh, of course.
And where you guys, it's slightly different for you as well. This is your day job. This isn't my day job, right? And we're trying to carry the message and the way the programme taught us. And that's why we're doing it. And it's to keep what we've got, is the recovery we've got. We're only going to keep it by giving it away. But I don't want to keep coming back to that because we need more of you.
I agree. And that takes me perfectly to the question that I had this way. And it was, what is your vision? Where do you want to take this, and what do you want to do with this role?
Well, I think there's so many avenues, there's so many options always available. It's about, first looking at what have we already got? How can we expand and improve on that? How can we use different channels to communicate, for example, success stories in Punjabi, in Urdu, in Gujarati, and get those kind of sent out there through community platforms, through WhatsApp, whatever communities like to use. Perhaps do a showing of a recovery, a Sikh gentleman or lady who's recovered from something in Punjabi, and if they're worried about anonymity, you can do a shaded thing and share that within a community setting. Yeah. I'm sure people will relate to that and resonate. So it's about thinking broader. I'd love to really, I always say to Dilesh, I love speaking with, people from South Asian communities as well. And also, I'm just specifically talking about that at the moment, but any communities, everyone brings something. And I think also Dilesh was saying, going on what he said, lots of little voices makes one loud voice.
Yeah.
Even though we're all working singularly, actually together, it's about as long as we collaborate and coordinate our voice.
Yeah, 100%.
At the same time, when we're doing a campaign, for example, then the power of that voice is massive because it's going in all directions.
And how can Turning Point, what can you do? I'm asking you, Dilesh.
Oh, yeah. I think.
It's been crafty though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just turned away.
So the question is, what can Turning Point do?
Yeah.
I think it's continue to work closely with the likes of yourself. Continue to work closely with the likes of Spinny Hill Recovery. Continue to develop roles like we have. Like, look, when we look at a year ago, I was a advanced recovery worker, and I was on my own. I was doing this as a diverse community on my own, and now we have myself, we have Sadaf, we are going out for a Polish-speaking worker, we have Samaya, who's a family and carer specialist, and she speaks multiple different languages, and she's also a substance misuse and mental health specialist. So she's not only, we talked mental health earlier, she's working directly with diverse communities with substance misuse and mental health. And then we're talking about this team that a few years ago that have just grown from now having a diverse community recovery worker to build links, to now having a Punjabi specialist, to now having a mental health specialist, to now looking at having a Polish-speaking specialist. So the growth is happening, and it's continuing. Even if I look at if we can get my team to develop and grow, because I've now developed I've now got a new role as a team leader. So it's going places. It's being able to look at my vision, and my vision when I first started this role was to be based in every single community, to have every single language possible that you could as a worker, and that is still my vision. It's still my vision, and we're slowly pulling out where my vision is, and ideally I'd like to hold a community event. I want to hold a massive community event to go out and invite all the professionals from the community and us to be talking about the specialist work we do within diverse communities. And when we talk about language, we're also looking at mixed race, African, Caribbean, Jamaican. We're talking about huge communities. We're Asian here. We spoke about a lot, but there is a lot of other communities. The Somali community. Yeah. There is a lot of other communities that are not being heard.
Absolutely.
And not being noticed and sort of going under the radar because we're talking language specialists, but there are a lot of communities that we need to, the Gypsy travelling community, the Romanian community, there's so many communities, and it's slowly building this stuff I've been building over the last few years with Turning Point and growing and taking each individual will come, and it's great to have Sadaf on board, which she'll run with it. I know she will. It's great to have you on board, where without your support over the last few years, would I be sitting here saying 7% to 10%? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Without Spinny Hill Recovery support, I wouldn't be. Without JIT support, without the Belgrade Police support, I wouldn't be doing this. So it's just building more community-based organisations to work with us.
And I think you mentioned Samaya there, and I forgot about Samaya, and I think you got Samaya, Sadaf, yourself, and the other, and I think Turning Point is very fortunate because the passion you speak with Sadaf as well. It's not, for me, it's not just a job for you. No. And even Samaya, and Samaya's, I've known Samaya for a few years now.
Yeah.
And it's very passionate, and it's about, and it's because we realise the problem it is in our communities. And
I think we've seen it with our own eyes.
Yeah.
We've seen it, experienced it, so that you're bringing in a different perspective. It's not just a job. It's really not.
And that was when we speak about Spinny Hill Recovery coming to the Gurdwara. Samaya, a Muslim lady who works closely with us, she speaks so many different languages. I couldn't even name them because there's probably more than I could in my hand. But even to see Sumaya going to an event at the Gurdwara quite recently, there was a community event, and Sumaya, as a Muslim lady, was stood there in fully dressed, with the head covered, everything that was required, following the traditions of the Sikh tradition, and also following Muslim traditions as well, and presenting that, and being able to walk in there with confidence and not be afraid of doing that.
Once again, it's like not being judged.
No, absolutely. It's like, for example, if I was to go in the Gurdwara, I would cover my head appropriately out of respect for, what
the
is
Sikh faith.
Absolutely. Same as I would go into a mosque and cover my head if I was going into a mosque. So it's about having that understanding already.
Yeah. Sadaf, we're quickly running out of time, but I just want to, once again, the viewers, the listeners listening to our episode today, Under the Influence, in Punjabi or Hindi, what message would you finally want to give to them if they know someone who's struggling, or if they're struggling themselves?
So, हमारा ज़िंदगी एक होता है, और इस ज़िंदगी में हमको पता नहीं कितने साल का होगा, 10 साल, 20 साल और 100 साल, किसी को भी नहीं पता. मगर हम अंदर डर नहीं करना है. आप प्लीज़, आपका बेटा या बेटी या हस्बैंड या कोई फैमिली में कोई प्रॉब्लम है, दारू का या ड्रग्स का, पॉपिसीज, कोई चीज़ का, आप उनके लिए सोचना, उनके लिए मदद करना. आप उनका ही सोचना, ऐसा सोचना है, जब आप बाहर जाते हो कोई परिंदा गिर गया, हम इसको ख्याल रखते हैं, उसको प्यार देते हैं, उसको वो परिंदा शायद आपको मारेगा, ऐसे कर चक मारेगा आपको, मगर हम प्यार से, मोहब्बत से, इंसान से ऐसे देखते हैं उनको मदद करना, क्योंकि ये ज़िंदगी है. ऐसा भी आपके बेटी के लिए, आपका हस्बैंड या कोई, शायद आपका प्रॉब्लम होगा कोई चीज़, प्लीज़ आपका कॉन्फिडेंस, आपका दिल से आपके ज़िंदगी जो है ख्याल रखना, और हम आपको भी मदद कर सकते हैं.
And I could see the passion running through your eyes saying that. I could not understand what you were saying, so I've got to politely ask you if you could, because you are the Punjabi specialist worker, so I'm going to ask you politely if you could translate that for me.
Well, yes, I kind of switched from Punjabi to, Hindi really, so, but I think it's the overall language, I was just, for now, for this purposes. So I was just saying, just as life is important, we don't know how much time we have in this world, perhaps 10 years, 20, 30, maybe 100 years even, nobody knows. But it's about that self-love and that humanity, and about looking after ourselves as well. Perhaps it's yourself or a family member that's struggling. And the example I give, we sometimes are afraid to do, because what if that sets my daughter off or my son off? What if somebody in the community will find out? Well, let me give you a quick example. If you're walking down the road, you see a bird that's fallen out of a nest and it's struggling. From your humanity perspective, from your human perspective, from your religious perspective, you're not going to leave that bird to suffer. In fact, you're going to pick it up, even if it bites you, scratches you, with your love and your humanity and that self-love, you will do what you need to help that bird. And I'm sure, a lot of you will agree to that from a human perspective. So similarly, regardless if your son's going to fight it or your daughter, it's about the end process, what's going to come out of this. Nothing is easy in life. So with that humanity, with that perspective, do this for you or your family, and realise that we are here to help, and please tell us what would you like us to do as well. But I'd like to thank you for inviting me today, Jazz. It was really great meeting you in person today, and Dil as well. Thanks for inviting me to share my perspective on things.
No, thank you. And I just want to re-emphasise that if anyone's struggling, just reach out, initially speak to your GP. They will signpost you to the alcohol and drug services nearest to you. But here in Leicester, you're blessed. You've got Turning Point doing a great job, and with people like Sadaf, Samaya, people like myself, the Spinney Hill Project, Afzal and Arafat supporting Turning Point, we can get that support to you, and hopefully you can have a life free of alcohol or any substance that you are struggling with. Finally, Sadaf, I just want to say big thank you to you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll meet again. And but I just want one final question for you.
Sure.
The podcast is called Under the Influence. So what are you under the influence of today?
I'm under the influence of passion, enthusiasm, inspiration, and a positive outlook and excitement actually to where this is going to go. So that's what I'm under the influence of.
That's
And
wonderful.
I'm glad you didn't ask me to say that in a different language. That's why.
Well, Dilesh might ask you now.
Okay.
So can you translate that?
My translation skills are finished today.
No, once again,
been a pleasure.
thank you, Sadaf, and thank you, Dilesh, for supporting us with this. And until next time, thank you.